Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to Other Things with ... Today's guest is Other Things with Phil Murrell. And I've had the pleasure to get to know Phil a little bit. I'll go into details more about that. But anyway, let's give a big welcome to Phil Murrell. Hey, Phil.
Hey, Kenny, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
It's awesome to have you here, my friend. I tell you, Phil's brother is one of my best friends in the ministry named Peter. And when I called Phil to talk to him about being on the show, I had to do a double take because it sounded just like I was speaking to Peter. So I already feel like I know Phil very well. But Phil is a part of a special broadcast that comes out of Houston called Live at Bill's. And when I heard Phil begin to tell the story about how this whole project and endeavor really of love came to be, I felt like it would be a really good fit for what we're about, which is encouraging conversations that inspire and encourage. And so that's what we're about, is to lift you up, to encourage you, to inspire you, to have hope, especially in this time of a lot of despair going on around us. But the story that I heard from Phil is one that will encourage you. So if we can, Phil, let's just go ahead and get right into it. If you want to give any background information about yourself personally, but then also
Sure.
let's get into the story.
Okay, yeah, sure, no problem. Thank you, Kenny. Yeah, I grew up playing music. Peter and I come from a very musical family. Everybody plays something, and we grew up with childhood memories like playing Christmas carols with my grandparents and my aunt and uncle, all crowded around with trombones and tubas and trumpets and pianos and basses and all that kind of stuff. I played drums,
Oh, awesome.
and been on tour before, lived in Nashville for 8 years playing some music up there, and then came back to Houston. And music is kind of a fickle friend. Sometimes it pays and sometimes it doesn't, and so you find yourself, well, I've got to make ends meet, so you go out and just get into the normal marketplace and get a job, which is what I've done. But coming up in music and being around musical people and being in the scene, you kind of latch on to those friends, and no matter what you're doing, whether you're playing regularly or not, they still remain your friends. And jamming is a big part of musical friendship, where you just get together in a group and play just for the fun of it, not for anybody to pay you or anything like that, but just because you want to. It's in you and you've got to get it out. And so that's who Bill is. Bill's my buddy that I would jam with. And he has this awesome house. I'm actually on the first floor of his house. All of this, and if you watch Live at Bill's, it looks like a bar where live bands play. But that's all in his house. And he had this, not quite with the studio set up yet, but we would just all get together and come in here and play. And out of that, different bands form and things like that, putting together different kind of cover bands based on what music people wanted to play. And then COVID hit and reared its ugly head, and we couldn't play anywhere. So we decided to hook up an iPhone and just aim it at the bands playing and just go live on Facebook. And the more we talked about it, we know so many people that are involved in production and the music end and the technology end, video end, that we just put our heads together, and none of us could do what we wanted to do anyway. So we just all came here and basically built a sound stage and bought the lights and the equipment necessary. We did a bunch of research on how to live stream a show and how to make an impact on YouTube and all that kind of stuff. And we basically just put our heads down and got to work. And, I think there's an old saying that you go to war with the army that you have. And so that's what we did. We went to YouTube with the technology and the crew and the know-how that we had. And of course, anytime you do an endeavor like this, you're going to learn a lot pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say in the last year and a half, we've learned almost 2 years now. Actually, we're coming up on 2 years in December of every other week putting out a new episode.
Oh,
so
wow.
We're proud of that. And that's the background. It was just a bunch of people wanting to play music, couldn't. So we decided to give them an area to do it on YouTube with technology and cameras and lights.
So you post a new episode every other week?
Yeah, that's right. Episodes come out every other Thursday.
Thursday.
We used to be a live show, but we found that live has a lot of gremlins. So we decided, okay, well, let's shoot it live in front of an audience. And we do very little editing, really, but we do take the time to edit and get a polished product so we can air it on Thursday.
Yeah, and that's when Peter told me, we were talking one day and he said, "Hey, you need to connect with my brother because he's doing something sort of like what you do on
Yeah.
YouTube and it's going pretty well." And so then when I went onto your website or to YouTube and watched one of your programs, I was impressed with number one, the quality and the clarity, and then like where you're standing, that graphic. And you told me that actually what I'm seeing, that's actually a television behind you. It's not a fixed image.
Yeah, it's just a TV screen. And we'll do sketches at the beginning when I'm introducing the show, and we'll put pictures of celebrities up here. And, it's pretty basic, but it looks really neat when you put it all together.
Yeah, and I've enjoyed that. I find you personally very entertaining as a part of what's going on there at Bill's. But yeah, I was just fascinated from the standpoint of how you're projecting that image, and I'm picking it up, through the video, and I'm not seeing any kind of that cycle hum or anything. So you must have some sort of filters that are capturing it to where I'm not seeing any distortion or blips.
There's something that is done. I'm not a part of all of that. That I leave that to the guys in the back control room, and I stay out here in front of the camera. But yeah, we're blessed to have a group of friends that we already knew, had already worked together, already been friends with, had birthday celebrations at each other's houses. And this is our core group of friends that our wives all love each other. We all love each other, and we're all just a big group, happy family of friends. And we just were able to pick, okay, we need you to do this, we need you to do that, based on what everybody's passion and what everybody's know-how was and their experience. And we came up with a little studio crew. So it's been a blessing. It's a lot of fun. We wouldn't be able to do this. Everybody is crucial. If one of us is out, we pretty much don't do anything. We can squeak by, but we typically need everybody on board all the time. And the great thing is everybody shows up every time.
Oh, but see, that says a lot. And that's something that stood out to me when you were telling me the beginning of your story, is the fact that at this point, are you all still volunteer? I mean, this is a labor of love, no pay.
We don't make any. We lose money doing this. We don't make any money at all. We pay to be able to do it. We've explained it before as this is our golf. This is our whatever, fishing. This is our hunting. Whatever your hobby is, whatever it is that you spend your money on, and you take your time that's yours. What you choose to do with it, this is what we choose to do, and we love it. So
that's a cool concept right there. I like that. And it's probably as expensive as golf, which for me was a very expensive game. But I tell you, Phil, you bringing that up about the cohort of people that have come together that are friends, and the aspect of it being a community, really a place for people to go, to hang out, to feel important. A friend of mine, he retired from Pepsi and had a really great job, but Pepsi had an emphasis one time called "Make Me Feel Important," and it was like MMFI. And so they did that throughout the whole corporation, but they realized that people want to be somewhere where they feel like that they count. And that's something that really came through in our conversation on the phone, that, as you said, that happens there. But kind of take it back to the beginning, because you went through kind of a series of steps of how the domino effect happened to where, like you said, it started with you and Bill. And Bill's a musician as well, I take it, because you said y'all used to jam together. So what instrument does he play? That's a side note, but
he's a guitar player, but he can really anything with strings on it. He's pretty much a master of. He was in a band in the late '80s and early '90s called Success, that came out of Houston and was quite successful. And then in I believe 1992, a band out of Seattle called Nirvana came out, and Bill's style of music was no longer what was avant-garde or what was in the market, what kids were buying. And so so then like I said, when you have to, you go get a job. So,
The cool thing that you mentioned, talking about really, the old phrase, necessity is the mother of invention. And so you guys were already doing some things together, and then the pandemic hits, which kind of blew everybody out of the water.
yeah, when COVID hit, we just wanted to play like always, and we couldn't. All the bars got shut down, all the clubs got shut down, even church. If you had a church gig, church got shut down. So there was just nowhere for musicians to go, and we already have this perfect place set up that feels like a live music venue. Little, yes, but it feels like a live music venue. Mm-hmm. And it just it filled that need that we had, just wanting to play. And some friends would come over. We were very careful. We didn't want to break any rules, so we would have maybe 3 or 4 people besides us who were playing, so not to go over that 10-person limit or whatever it was.
Right.
So then when we started getting into the idea of live streaming, it was all because some friends of ours would just rehearse in their garages with a iPhone aiming at them, and they would put a PayPal link on their Facebook Live page, and they would just film their rehearsals, and the people could drop them $5 or $10 or whatever.
Well, that's cool.
And, so that's kind of where we got the idea. Well, we could do that. And then Bill and I are kind of get stars in our eyes and kind of shoot for the moon. So we decided, let's not just do one iPhone, let's do 6, and let's have a host, and let's bring in different bands every time, and we're going to interview them. We're going to do sketches, like sketch comedy, and it's basically, we're going to make the Johnny Carson show where the focus is not the comedy but the music, is basically what we came up with. And I spent probably a month every weekend for a month here, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, building this thing out with Bill and our tech director, Brad Barnett, who's a genius when it comes to the technology. When you're watching the show and you watch the camera angles change, that's all Brad. He does all that. And you had mentioned in our earlier meeting, the colors, that's all Brad. So.
Yeah, because one of the first things that stood out to me was the vibrancy of the colors, but yet warm, because mm-hmm. as I shared with you, I'm red, green deficient, and pretty heavily so. But I can see your set, and it really is inviting. And and as I shared with you previously, that even though it's a single dimension, so to speak, it's not multidimensional. I'm not watching you through what's the new meta, but it's still very much a sense of community. In other words, I feel like I'm sitting there with you, and so to me that really hits a mark for a lot of people, because I know for myself during the pandemic, especially when we were being very strict about where we went and didn't go, that I turned to the YouTube programs and the programming as a sense of community. And but through that, I tell you, I've learned, and some people will disagree with this, but I think that Facebook, they're onto something with Meta, that this is a form of community. And you reach people in your studio there, but then through your broadcast, through YouTube, you are extending your community into the homes and lives of people who are tuning in. And so, and you do a very good job of that, to where I feel a sense of warmth and connection immediately with what you're doing. To top it off, my technological background, I immediately picked up on the fact that, wait, whoever's doing the mix on the audio, because the bands are playing live, it's not canned.
No. What you're hearing on the show is what's coming out of their instruments. Yeah.
And folks, if you tune in, and some of the music, it may not be your taste, that's not the point. What I'm saying, though, is that the people that are coming together doing this right now is a labor of love, that the quality is outstanding. And what it says to me, and especially because I have my own YouTube channel, is what you can do if you really want to do it. And as Phil is sharing, the people that began to come along into the mix, pardon the pun, but who began to come along, bringing their skill sets to produce what you see when you go to Live at Bill's. So let's pick up on some of the people that began to fold into it, because Brad Barnett, which you said, now Brad not only is the he's technical, but is he also the graphics designer? Like, did he design your logo that I see there behind you?
He did. He did. He that was his creation. I mean, we knew we were going for like a neon light kind of thing, but he came up with the color scheme and the font, if you will, of it. You know, the script up at the top and then the block letters on the bottom, and the fence boarding was that. That's just how these walls are built out here in the studio. This house, a little secret. This house has flooded, I think, 5 times in the last 7 years. And the last one, of course, was Harvey. And the water was touching the ceiling of the first floor.
Wow.
So it's basically a built-out garage with a slab. There's no flooring in here. And all the walls are fence boarding with no insulation behind it. So when a flood happens, you just rip down the fence board, spray off the walls with bleach and water, put new fence board up, and you're good to go. But so that's the look of the show, and it really helps. You know, it's kind of rustic back there. If you watch the show, you'll see big whiskey barrels in the back and stuff like that. It just makes it look, I don't know how you want to describe it, a dive bar maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, just kind of a place where people go and hang out, where they want to
comfortable and
make connections.
Fancy. You know, it's just a warm place for people to hang out. And one of the things that we've noticed is we've really built a family with the bands that have come to play, and their own community. They've accepted us in, because we're older than all of those guys. You know, those guys are in their 20s, mostly 20s and 30s, and we're 40s and 50s. But they've allowed us to come into their family, and we've heard stories of bands playing out in Houston since everything's opened back up, where they say, hey, have you guys, another band will say, have you guys played live at Bill's yet? You know, you haven't played in Houston until you've played live at Bill's. So,
oh, that's cool.
That's kind of neat. And they come to, when one of their groups of friends is in a band playing on Bill's, the other bands will come and see them. And then, of course, their friends and families come in. And we've just kind of created a big family that all loves live music. But that's not the only thing, you know. I mean, myself, I'm a believer, and it's kind of a chance to get to minister to people that otherwise wouldn't be ministered to. We feed the bands when they come in.
I'm in.
Yeah, they're here all day. We ask a lot of them. So they're here usually from 2, 3 in the afternoon till after midnight sometimes. And so we do feed the bands, you know, we love on them. We give them their own little green room with a nap area if they need it. And we basically just treat them like rock stars, because growing up playing live music in this scene, people can not be nice sometimes. Bar owners, promoters, it can be an ugly little scene sometimes, and we try to counteract that with just positivity and warmth. And one of our acts, one of our first shows, it was a funk hip hop guy named Cooley Booley, and his wife Rainey is on the show. I was rewatching some of the shows earlier this week, and at the end, I didn't remember her saying this on the show, but at the end they thanked Live at Bill's, and she said, y'all need to watch Live at Bill's. It's not just music, it's a whole vibe, and it's all about love. And I thought that was a great comment.
I like that.
I love it that an artist that we've had on the show would say that about us. So that's what we're shooting for. We're not just trying to make money on YouTube, and you know, we're trying to be a positive influence in the music scene, and show people that, you know, you can be nice when it comes to playing music. You don't have to be a jerk. You don't have to be a money grabber. You know, you can.
That's good. Yeah, absolutely. And I tell you, I like that. And that's what I'm talking about, folks. What's going on there with that group of people that are coming together for a common cause, something that they're passionate about, that they're willing to give their volunteer time to. And really, it's the dream of any organization, regardless of whether it's a YouTube channel, or you have your own corporation, or you have a volunteer organization, which I've been actually the director of a nonprofit myself. Mm-hmm. But to have people that are passionate about what they're doing, you don't have to beat them up to get them involved. In other words, it's not a constant badger or a call. They show up and they're faithful because they're doing what they love to do. And I tell you, Phil, I mean, you're to be commended, because I think that key thing that is obviously present, or the people would not be accountable. They wouldn't be there. And so, something, I used to watch the TV show Cheers, and I didn't really watch it when it was on first. I think I was too busy. But going back and watching the reruns, that theme song is so catchy to where, you want to go where everybody knows your name.
Yeah.
And they're always glad you came.
Yeah.
And that's what the world is looking for. And especially if you read the statistics of what's happening in the culture with people doing terrible things to themselves and going off into severe addictions or even suicide, it's when they get to that point to where they feel like they're detached and no one cares.
Yeah.
And so these types of things, and folks, I hope this inspires you that whatever your background is, whatever you're interested in, there are other people that are looking to feel important, that want to connect, and to have other people that they can hang out. I tell you, there's a famous song by America called Oz, that Oz never did give nothing to the Tin Man that he didn't already have.
Yeah.
But it starts off with sometimes late when, people share the gift of gab between themselves. And I tell you, something that we see is when you're hanging out with people you care about, you talk about everything and nothing. And you never sit back and go, they're so boring, or why are they talking about this? Why are they taking my time? You know what I'm saying, Phil? You want to hang out and just talk about something that you saw happen in the driveway today, or something you saw on TV, or something you heard on the radio, or something that came into your mind. So that's true community, and people are starving for it. Let me say this: if you're hanging out with people that are finding fault with what you're talking about or what you want to talk about, you're hanging with the wrong people.
Yeah.
Because true fellowship that every part of humanity needs is what Phil's talking about. So let's pick back up. I'm through preaching, but you inspire me. You inspire me. So, moving forward, you do provide an excellent avenue for bands there in the Houston area. Tell me more about that, as far as what your reach is with the bands, and what you're seeing as far as helping get the word out about, my son here in Nashville is a writer, producer for Sony Essential.
Yeah.
And I tell you, we grew up and raised our kids up in music. Both of our kids have music business degrees, so they know what you know and what you feel. And so I just want you to share a little bit more on the type of impact you're able to have in helping because everybody is somebody's kid, and they all want to see them do well. And especially if they're musicians, if you're a parent of a musician, you want to see them thrive. So tell me more about that, as far as your component of that.
Sure. We have been able to have some impact as far as things like, and not just trying to make people famous, but one of our bands is one of our first bands. Actually, our first rock band to come on the show was a band from Houston called Lucid Illusions, and really great guys. It's a 3-piece band, kind of pop punk.
Oh, wow.
And since they've been on bills, not necessarily because of bills, but since they've been on bills, they've been voted Houston's best band by the Houston Chronicle.
Oh, awesome.
They got to open up BuzzFest, which is a big alternative rock music festival here in Houston, with all national acts. They were the only local act, and they were the very first band on that stage. And they actually just went to Nashville and recorded an album, which is going to drop on December 3rd. So
congratulations.
Yeah, they're doing really well. Bills has been a great avenue for the bands, because not only they help us out and we help them out. They bring their fan base that they already have to watch us. Hopefully that fan base continues to watch and maybe tells other people about it. But then they get a really high quality music video. Several of the bands that have been on the show, the only thing we ask that they leave our logo, our watermark there on the bottom of the screen, but they do use our videos to enter into contests, to get promoted, to get to play bigger shows. Yeah, so that's good for us, and it's great for them. And we also offer as a service, even if you're not going to be on the show, if you want to hire out the studio, you can, and make a really great video.
That's amazing. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so, and we've had a couple of bands, because like you said, the audio mix, that's all Bill. Bill is the audio wizard. that's why he's not on the camera. He's back there in his control room running sound as the bands are playing. But he has been booked to record a couple of albums from the different bands that have been on here, a couple of songs. So that, you know, it's turned out well. And like I said, we have heard stories of bands getting lined up backstage. If there's 3 or 4 bands going to play one club in a night, 2 or 3 of them will be huddled around their phones watching Live at Bill's before they go on. And and so there's just neat little stories like that. And you know, we all grew up playing music, touring, playing live, and none of us are rock stars, and that's okay. We don't have to be. There's nothing wrong with making a few $100 extra a month playing music as opposed to it being your entire living, which is a hard concept to grasp when you're 19 and wanting to be on MTV, you know, when I was.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But once you do grasp it, it opens up the world for a lot of fun, creativity, no pressure. Just do what you want to do with the people you want to do it with. And I think that can be true for anything. If you're good at baking, you know, find other people that are good at baking and
absolutely.
Make a baking show. If you want to do YouTube, a lot of people do it. It's very saturated. I wouldn't get into it thinking you're going to get rich, because it might happen, but it happens to very few. So, but we're not doing it, like I said, to make money. We're doing it to spread love throughout the music community, promote bands if we can, and then you know, it's just fun for us. This is how we're spending our time. I know for me, I was out of the music scene for a long time where I didn't go see anybody play. I wasn't playing myself, and it's been fun to be on this side, watching other bands that are doing it and getting to love on them, encourage them, and push them to do more.
And I tell you, for those of you who are watching, if you're in the Houston area, looks like an invitation to go and get a really high quality promotional video, because if you go to the YouTube channel Live at Bill's and you see the quality that they're capturing and streaming live, and I tell you folks, that is very hard to do, especially mixing it down so that it sounds right coming out of a computer speaker or your iPhone. Yeah. And so the quality is really top notch. And it reminds me, I don't know if it was Jimmy Kimmel Live or it may have been the early days of one of the other, it's not James Corden, but your lighting and that stage setup, it looks very familiar, which is a good thing. It doesn't look like a copy. But right. I tell you, you know something, I'm a musician in my past, and like I tell people, the reason why both my sons started in piano and then they're also both professional drummers for real. Yeah. Is because I mastered the contrabass clarinet in high school. I was the first chair all-state Texas, which is huge. I could have gone on to the symphony, but who wants to? I mean, I didn't want to do that, but I love music. And something I taught both of my kids is that I hang with other musicians, even people that are messed up. It's still a better hang than with most people because of the caliber. It is, isn't it? Don't you think so, Phil?
I agree. I love hanging out with musicians
because their level of quality. And I mean, you know, there are people that are messed up and that have addictions and what have you. But I'm just telling you that the type of people that it takes to even begin to learn to play an instrument and that stay with it, that they're just cool people. It's a great industry by and large. Of course, every industry, I tell you. My son escorted the famous drummer Greg Bissonette, who actually, my son's drum instructor is his booking agent. It's a long story. Yeah. But so Colton got a chance to hang with Greg, who drums for Ringo Starr now. He was David Lee Roth's drummer when he left Van Halen. But I asked him about, you know, the drugs and all this stuff. And Greg's a Christian, and he was signing autographs after he did a clinic, a drum clinic. And I said, well, Greg, you know, my son's thinking about getting into the industry, which he now is. I said, but what about the drugs and stuff? He looked at me and goes, like, what are you talking about? And I said, well, you know, you hear so much stuff. And he goes, I don't think it's a problem any worse than any other industry. Right. I mean, he said you have corporate executives that are hooked on dope or they're alcoholics. And I thought, wow, that's a story you don't hear. But music is amazing. But moving on, I invite people to check out Live at Bill's, and Phil is also a little bit of a comedian and does it very well. And I tell you, the I don't know if it's an animation of you as a pirate. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Is that an ongoing theme or?
Yeah, well, not the pirate thing necessarily. So he's not around. I don't know where they moved him, but so one of our crew members had a bobblehead of me made, and so I was standing here getting ready to do a show, and he said, "Stand still," and he took about 32 pictures from here to here and sent it off to some company, and they 3D printed a little bobblehead.
And it does look like, it looks like you. I've seen it.
Yeah, it's called Tiny Phil. And so the pirate was actually Tiny Phil. And Tiny Phil goes on a lot of adventures, and people are mean to him and tie him up. And,
you know who you sort of remind me of is when Pee-wee's Playhouse was, on the air, that Phil Hartman played the sailor. They would go through their portal, and of course Phil Hartman was getting doused with water the whole time he's talking.
Sure.
But the Tiny Phil, it's called Tiny Phil.
Tiny Phil, yes sir.
Yeah, Tiny Phil reminds me a little bit of Phil Hartman's character on Pee-wee's Playhouse.
That's funny.
Yeah, but anyway, so that's cool. So there's that kind of thing in the mix there also. But
we write sketches. We've gone on location and shot complete comedy sketches. We had a band one time on the show that called themselves the Swamp Hippies. And so I went from the angle of, are there other kinds of hippies? I didn't, And so then we made a sketch about fainting hippies. I'm sure you've heard of fainting goats.
Fainting hippies.
Fainting hippies. I ran up behind the hippies and shouted, and they all passed out. And it's just ridiculous, but fun to do. And some people like it, and with the bands, like you said earlier, it may not be your kind of music. Well, I kind of have a saying, as long as it's executed well, there's no such thing as bad music. There's just good music you like and music you don't like.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that.
So, and we weed up. We do a vetting process. We don't have everybody that tries to get on the show. We'll tell them, you know what, these two songs are great. Work on that. Practice that. Try to develop that. Call us in 6 months, or whatever.
Oh, that's good.
We do try to find quality bands that we feel like are doing well and playing well, because that helps us out. If we got known for having people that weren't so skilled yet or playing stuff that wasn't quite up to par, nobody would watch. So we have to have a certain level of ability, and but we'll take anybody. I mean, we'll take hip hop. We'll take a lot. We've had a lot of metal bands. I'm not a metal guy, but there's a lot of that here in Houston, so we have to represent that. My brother Peter calls it "Kill the Puppies" music. And one time he asked me, "Why are they so angry?" And I said, "Peter, they're not. That's just their music. That's what they like to listen to, and so that's what ends up coming out of them. But they're the sweetest guys you could ever hope to sit down and meet. I mean, all they're going to sit down and talk to you about is how much they love their 2-year-old daughter. Like these are just really sweet guys. They're not mean and raw and wanting to fight all the time or anything like their music might sound. But so we had to decide early, this isn't about us. We're not bringing on bands that we like. We're bringing on bands that are doing a good job and that we think people might want to hear from."
And I think that's a good point. I think for all of us, I tell you, I think back to the days when Guns N' Roses first came out. Watching Axl was so hard with his serpentine movements. I just, kind of wrote him off. But when you go back and you listen to their music minus watching him, no offense, Axl, but the song "Sweet Child of Mine," what a great anthem. And especially, like when you get it's really more for us with grandchildren, especially my first grandchild is a girl, Kate. And when I hear that song, "Sweet Child of Mine," I mean, it's like they're singing about Kate. So, I kind of threw the baby out with the bathwater, for a time. And I'll tell you, somebody else is Metallica. Yeah. I mean, you talk about, this sense of it sounded like hate, but then when you see the James, what's the lead singer's name? James, I can't remember his last. What's his name? Heder? Yeah, Hetfield. Yeah, James Hetfield. But you see them interviewed, and they're just people that are playing music. They're very good. I tell you, Eric Church is a country star, that they paired with Metallica for one of the music shows. And Eric Church is about as hard as any metal band, but he's actually country music as far as his classification. So I think that's good. And, I tell you, yeah, we love music, and I think that goes without saying further. But let me ask you some questions. What's cool is that not everybody's available on all the social media platforms, but from what I gather, as far as some stuff you sent me, that you are on Twitter, LinkedIn. You're on LinkedIn. That's awesome.
Not LinkedIn. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, Rumble, Facebook.
And then if anybody has any questions about anything we've talked about, you can actually be instant messenger, the messenger deal on Facebook, right?
Facebook. Yeah. Just message Live at Bill's on Facebook and we'll get you.
Okay, good. Because if you're like me, you may have questions as far as if you're wanting to do something. I get the impression that they would be open to helping talk to you about, what they're doing as far as technologically and how they're making things look the way that they do, because it looks very professional. And again, that inspired me. But, some things that you sent me when I always ask our guests, if there's some things that they want to stand out, maybe 3 to 5 big things that are important to them. And you wrote, when doing creative things, stick with what you know. And do you have anything further to say about that? But I think that's a good point.
Well, not really. I just mean, if you're going to involve yourself in something creatively like this, the reason we did this was because we all came up in music. Now, that's not to say if you don't know anything about, writing a children's book. I'm not saying don't go write a children's book. What I'm saying is write the children's book about something you're familiar with. It's going to save you a lot of heartache. And like we've discussed before, there's been times where I'm sure all of us on the crew have gone, oh, do we really have to do another show today? Because like you said, we don't get paid to do this. We all love it and it's always fun, but you get tired, you get worn out, other things in life happen that make it difficult.
Sure.
But when it's something that you care about, you already know about, you already love, it just takes that much more of the challenge off. And for me, when it comes to live music, I want to know as much as I can know. I want to hear as many bands as I can hear. And so it's been a fun way to get to do that. And I think if you stick with what you know, it's going to be a lot. The challenges will be more I don't know if overcomable is a word, but it'll be easier to overcome the challenges if you're sticking with something that you love and are passionate about.
Yeah. Also, I think that something that I picked up and that you share in the notes is being surrounded by people that you are inspired by. And it shows in everything that you guys are doing. But one other thing, I think it's a good word here, is don't be afraid of technology. I think we all at times are afraid of technology.
And when I wrote that down and sent it to you, I was like, man, am I being a hypocrite? Because I'm scared to death of technology. But I found people that aren't. And I can log on to an interview like this, but that's about the max of it. When they start talking about frame rates and ISOs and lighting frequencies, and that's all Greek to me. I write the joke.
Oh, do you? So you do? Are you the primary writer?
Yeah, I write
on the show.
I write pretty much everything you see on the show. Yeah.
Oh, cool. So you're the writer, star.
Yeah. Well, the face. That's what I.
The face. Hey, that's the best way to keep that, so that you're still live at Bill's, right?
Yes, that's right. We did. The last episode we put out was that Lucid Illusions band. It was their second episode with us in celebration of their new album coming out. And we did a little sketch where Bill was out here with me on camera, and he kept going, I gotta go. And I'm, Bill, I want to talk to you about something. I have an idea about the show. Just do it. I'm sure it's a great idea. And I changed the name to Live at Phil's.
Oh, did you change the logo?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
It's pretty funny. Go back and watch it. I'm proud of that moment because that was all synced and live. Like we had to hit a button at the right time to make it happen, and it worked beautifully. So that's the Lucid Illusions. It's the last episode that we've aired. So.
Okay, yeah, that's funny. And I tell you, just outside looking in, just a word of encouragement to you, Phil, and to Bill and the other people there. That, as I shared with Phil on the phone, that it does have, and many of you watching this perhaps have never seen an episode of the Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson or Jay Leno, but it does have a feeling of kind of a variety, not kind of, but a variety show. And so to me, I think it has legs beyond even what's happening with them there in Houston, or perhaps even eventually turning into something more along the lines of like an Austin City Limits, or, you know, but different, because Austin City Limits is just the live performance recorded of the musical acts. But I think something that you guys bring to the table that to me is fresh is the musical acts, but coupled with the interaction that you host in addition. So it really seems to be sky the limit. You know, it all has to just, you know, continue on, you know, whatever is meant to be. But anyway, so I want to encourage you with that, because I tell you, like I said, people, I watch a guy named Traveling Robert who has an RV show. Mm-hmm. He is a first generation immigrant from Cuba and has come to the United States and lives in Miami, as my Spanish friends would say, but in Miami. But then he does a YouTube channel called Traveling with Robert. And like when I'm closing up shop here at night, I always go through kind of a routine of brushing my teeth and gargling for COVID. But I had him on last night, and it's just the video of Robert answering questions from people that are texting in. It's from all over the world. Yeah. And so I thought, this is telling that here I am winding down for the evening, but I find it soothing and encouraging to sit there and listen to Robert. He's videoing himself in his studio because he's back home right now in Miami, and reading people that are live streaming, you know, as far as texting in live. And so I know just from personal experience of what an impact this format has and what you guys are doing. But how are we doing on time? My producer's over here. It's my wife, but she does a great job actually keeping me informed.
She does. I've seen the show. Yeah, that's great.
Okay, we got about 10 minutes here, so okay. We still have a little bit of time. But let me see. Let me go ahead and be sure. I'll edit this in. But be sure to check out Live at Bill's on YouTube. And if you just go to youtube.com/Live at Bill's, no apostrophe, it'll take you right to the show. Okay, that's how I found you. So tell me about any interaction that you're aware of as far as what y'all are doing with YouTube, how that's working for y'all.
Well, it works great. We don't have a lot of interaction with YouTube other than that's just the platform that we put our product on. Mm-hmm. I know with YouTube, you have to have 1,000 subscribers before you can start monetizing. Mm-hmm. We are at currently 748, so we're getting there.
So sign up, everybody.
Yeah, if you would, if you do go, even if you never watch it, if you can subscribe, that would be great. But do watch it. It's a good show. It's fun. So right now, we're very small fish in the YouTube pond. YouTube does have some great algorithms as far as being able to track who's watching you and for how long. You can watch in real time the little graphs go, spike and then go down, and we pay attention to that. We actually have a lot of viewers in the UK that we're not quite sure how they found out about us. We don't really hush the UK. YouTube also offers a program where you can pay some money and your videos will be sent as advertisements to other viewers when they're watching something else. Uh-huh. And so we've done that on a couple of episodes that we felt pretty strongly about, and looking to do that with some more just to get the viewership up, throw a wider net, if you will. So it's always interesting to watch those things, and it's a neat tool. YouTube is a good tool. It's a good platform for somebody like us that was just kind of not really sure how to do a streaming thing. There's other programs like Patreon where you can have, basically you have paid members that pay you to continue to put out product, and you can give them different titles and different jobs. So we're not quite there yet, but we're keeping our heads down and keeping our focus on the prize. And the big thing for us has been, yes, let's continue to push, and hopefully one day we'll monetize. But more important than getting quick to that is having the backlog once we do get there.
I think that's a good point.
When we do get there, and YouTube starts pushing us up higher in the searches, we've got 2 years of product, almost 50 videos of 50 different bands playing their music that people can go back and watch. So that's been our main goal, but hopefully in a short amount of time we'll start seeing something happen.
I encourage, the Beatles. Malcolm Gladwell has a book, and in it he talks about the Beatles and how when they hit the States, we thought, hey, they're new on the scene. But unbeknownst to Americans, they had spent 5 years in the bars in Hamburg, Germany, playing and honing their craft. And so by the time they hit the States, these guys were tight. They had sung together every day for 5 years. And all of a sudden, they're overnight sensations, I think about Tom Petty. I'm a big music biography nut, and reading Tom Petty's biography, talking about how long he played, and finally broke through, and went through a lot of struggles with the bands falling apart. And so longevity is key, tenacity, and you got that. Also content, like you said, and folks, if you're wanting to do anything in the media aspect, that content is king. That's why Spotify, I've got this show will go audio to Anchor by Spotify. Okay. I'm also on Acast as the distributor for my podcast, God, the World, and Other Things, What Rocks. Yeah. But I reached out to Anchor when I found out you could actually do it for free if you don't need all their support. And I said, why are you doing this for free? It's shocking because I pay for Acast. Mm-hmm. And they said, well, you have to keep in mind, sir, that to host your show costs us like 10 cents, but they're wanting the content. So that's huge, and that you're already building that backlog of videos. Okay. But anyway, hey, before we go, I just want to ask Phil if you have just, a piece of advice, because at this point in your life, I almost forgot about this, but a coincidence, and maybe it's not a coincidence, is that the city I live in Spring Hill, Tennessee, that Phil lived here. Yeah, and so we have that connection, which is really unusual. That came out in my pre-interview with him. But anyway, Phil, as we wrap up, thank you so much for being on the show. It's been a real privilege for me and a thrill. But any parting words, if you could just share one thing with the people, a word of encouragement, of advice, what comes to mind?
Definitely. If you have an idea, if it's something creative that you want to do that you're thinking, it'll never work, or I think it might be a good idea, but somebody's already probably done it, don't let that kind of stuff get in your way. If you have the idea and the people around you that can help you get there, just do it. And when you get tired of doing it, keep doing it. And when you feel like this is not going the way I wanted it to go, keep doing it. You got to just keep your head down. I can tell you there's been multiple occasions where we've discussed canceling a show, just one, not the whole thing, but maybe not doing an episode. And we always come back and say, no, we have to stay consistent. We have to do it. And once we get here, we have a blast and we have a good time. And we thought maybe we'd be a little bit further along as far as monetizing goes 2 years ago when we started, but God has provided, and we're in a good place. And all of us have, somebody has stepped up to the plate every single time there's a need, and it's not always the same person. We have 2 people that joined us later, but Jeff, who runs our lighting, he was just the guy that knew Bill's wife and started coming to the show because he likes live music. And he kind of said, can I do something? And we were like, yes, you can run lights. I don't know anything about lights. Well, you will. Here's the manual. And he shows up every time. And then we have Georgie. She's our lone lady on the crew. She puts up with us, and she's a fantastic photographer. So she's got the great eye. She does our behind the scenes shots as well as runs one of the cameras. And now she's booking our bands for us. And because she's a live music photographer, she already has the network of a ton of bands and musicians that she's able to reach to. Hey, you want to come play bills? And yeah, we would love to. And then the next thing we know, here we go. We're ready to film them and put them up on YouTube. So that's my advice: is just do it. Keep your head down. Don't let the distractions and the discouragements get in your way. They're going to come, and there's going to be a time where you're just going to want to stay in bed. Get out of bed. Keep doing what you're doing.
Hey, in conjunction with that, my granddaughter is 7 years old, and I was over visiting here just a few weeks ago, and I was sitting on the couch, and I've got a little bit of a leg problem, and I was trying to get up, and she looked at me. I'm sitting on the couch, and she says, "You just need to peel yourself out of that couch and get up." And I said, "I need to do what?" She said, "You need to just peel yourself up out of that couch and get up." I started laughing, and I said, "Where on earth did you get that?" And she said, "It's in a book I've read called The Couch Potato." So anyway, I think that's a good word, Phil. Just keep on keeping on. Tenacity. Yeah. But as we close, thank you so much, Phil Murrell, for being our guest today on Other Things with Phil Murrell. As we close, I want to remind the people that you can find Live at Bill's on YouTube. They post every other Thursday, and they're on all of the social media platforms. Just reach out to them. And if you have any questions about anything you've heard on the show today, I know that they'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have. But anyway, this is the 4th episode in the series, and this is a wrap.
All right.